Today you're going to be learning about how to find the area of a parallelogram. I have a guest visitor who's going to help along with this lesson. It's Porky the pig, and he recently traveled to Alaska just like the bunny if you happen to take the statistics class.
Hi, I'm Porky Pig, and I'm in Alaska. Wow, there's a caribou behind me. Did you know that caribou is also a reindeer? I did not know that. Anyway, let's talk about geometric figures. A polygon is a closed figure formed by three or more straight lines. A parallelogram is a quadrilateral with opposite sides parallel and opposite sides the same length. A rhombus is a parallelogram with four equal sides. Let's see how they all relate.
The three circles are what's called a Venn diagram. It shows how things relate. You can see that the biggest circle is for polygon. A polygon is simply a closed figure formed by three or more straight lines. So I could draw a polygon that would look just like maybe like this. There's no real, parallel lines or anything. It's just closed straight lines. A parallelogram, however, must have the opposite sides parallel and the same length. So I'm going to do my best to draw what really looks to be a parallelogram. That's a parallelogram. A parallelogram is always a polygon, but a polygon is not always a parallelogram. And then a rhombus is a parallelogram that has four equal sides. Okay, so if four equal sides would be just more like this. I'm doing my best to make that look like a rhombus. So a rhombus is always a parallelogram and a polygon, but a parallelogram doesn't have to be a rhombus. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, let's look at this real world link. Expert skateboarders can slide down the railings of stairs safely. A parallelogram is used to build a staircase. How many sets of parallel lines are shown in this parallelogram to the right? So if you were to look at the lines, how many of them are parallel? Parallel means that they run opposite each other and they'll never intersect. Okay, so take a look at that and what do you think? Hopefully you said that there are two sets of parallel lines. There's one set right here and then another set right here. Okay, go ahead and go to your next page, please.
Wow, I made it to Denali National Park, one of the largest national wildlife parks in America. Anyway, back to parallelograms. The area of a parallelogram is the product of its base and its height. A lot of times you will see a formula that is written A equals BH, which simply means area equals base times height.
We'll use to calculate the area of a parallelogram, base times height. The area of a parallelogram is related to the area of a rectangle, as you discovered in the investigation. The base of a parallelogram can be any one of its sides, so it could be any one of the sides would be the base. The height is the perpendicular distance from the base to the opposite side. You will usually see a little line in the parallelogram that'll be identified as the height. And you can tell that it's perpendicular because it forms a 90-degree angle with the base. Parallelograms include special quadrilaterals such as rectangles, squares, and rhombi. That simply means that all squares, all rectangles, and all rhombi are parallelograms. And so you find the area the same way for all of those, base times height. Let's find the area of the parallelogram below. It says here, it's a little hard to read, but the base is 6 units and the height is 8. Okay, so let me just write that in a little bit bigger for you guys. Let's see here, so we'll just write base equals 6, height equals 8 units. So let's write our formula out. Area equals base times height. So that's simply area equals 6 times 8. So area equals 48 units. Now, however, remember when we do area, our units always need to be squared. So square units, that's really important. Okay, go ahead and go to your next page, please. Let's go ahead and practice a few more problems. Find the area of the parallelogram below. It shows you here the side length is 20 and 13, so that would mean that this one would also be 20 because they are parallel. That means that the opposite sides are equal in a parallelogram, and that one would be 13. The height is 11. Okay, so the area equals base times height, 20 times 11, which is 220 square centimeters. Okay, one thing that you'll notice is that they did do an estimate ahead of time. That is always a good idea. When you do an estimate, you should round one of the numbers to like a close, easy multiplier. So what they did is they took 20 and multiplied it by 10. They changed the 13 to a 10. Just to make it easy multiplication we can do in our head. That gives us 200 square centimeters. If our answer is close to 200 centimeters, that means that we did a good job and we got 220, which means we're most likely correct. Let's do a couple of practice problems. I'd like you to press pause and try to calculate the area of these two parallelograms. And then come back to check your answers. I will have Porky come back and give you the answers to these two problems. Okay, what you should do to get yourself started is area equals base times height for both of them. These are pretty easy. You may use the height is right here. Okay, so you would use the height, and then on this one the height is going to be right here, so you have to count.
Uh-oh, better be quick. It looks like bears might frequent this area. Hopefully you have solved both problems, and your answer should have been 18 square units for number A or letter A, and it should have been 64 meters squared for letter B. If you have any questions, please make sure to ask your teachers at this point if you're not sure how we got those answers.
Okay, I am going to go ahead and write in the formula, what you should have used to get these answers. The only tricky part is sometimes knowing which is the base. These were pretty clear. I circled it for B, and then obviously for letter A, the base would be right here, and you had to count your units. If you're unclear at this point on how we got these answers, please press pause and go ask your teacher for a little bit of help before you continue. If you get it, go ahead and go on to the next page. A formula is an equation that shows a relationship among certain quantities. To find missing dimensions, use the formula for area of a parallelogram. Replace the variables with the known measurements. Then solve the equation for the remaining variable. This is where things get just a little bit tricky, especially if you are taking the geometry power-up class before you've had algebra. So you really need to pay attention here because we're going to actually give you some hints and help you, and this will actually have you really well prepared for when you get to the algebra unit this year, which is unit 4 in your regular math class. So for number 3, it says, find the missing dimension of the parallelogram. The area we know is equal to the base times the height. The area, it says, is 45 equals 9, which is the base, times the height. The height we do not know. So that's like our missing piece to a puzzle. So 45 equals 9 times h. Well, this is pretty easy. You could do that in your head. You know that 9 times 5 is 45. So you're pretty sure that 5 is the height. But if you weren't sure, what they did is they actually solved an algebraic equation. And like I said, this is something we don't do until Unit 4. So you're getting a sneak peek right now. So let me just show you. 45 equals 9 times h. That means 9 times the height, which we do not know. It's the missing piece. what's happening right here, 9 times h, or 9h, is simply 9 times h. In order to solve algebraic equations, you do the opposite operation. So if it is multiplication that is happening, we solve it by using division. Whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other. So that just simply means divide both sides by 9. When we do that, we get 45 divided by 9 is 5. 5 equals h, because these 9 divided by 9 is 1, so that cancels itself out. That is all we did. So our height would have been, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to write h. We know it's h. Should have been 5. Let's see if you can do C and D on your own. Okay, I'm going to help you get started, and then we'll have Porky come back and show us the answers. So our area is 48, and over here our area is 96. In this case, we're given the height for both of our parallelograms. So area equals 6, whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to write A because we know the area. 48, whoops, didn't mean to do that either, hold on. equals 6 times B, base times height, right? And then this one, 96, equals the base times the height, which is 8, or B8, same thing as 8B. See if you can guess what these missing pieces are. Okay, so you're basically asking yourself, 6 times what is equal to 48, and what times 8 equals 96. Press pause now, solve the problems, and then check your answers with Porky.
Oh no, there is a bear. I really better hurry. Okay, the answer to C is 8 meters, because 6 times 8 is 48. So that means the base must be 8. For D, your answer should have been 12 yards. The base would be 12, because 12 times 8 is 96. If you are confused as to how I got those answers, please stop your teacher at this point and ask for more help. Wish me luck in getting away from the bear.
Tip that I want to point out is this one right here. This is important whenever you're doing these type of problems. Please make sure to check your work. To check your work, replace B and H in the formula with the answers that you get. So for example, Porky got 8 for C. So that means you should check to make sure that 6 times 8 is 48. That is true. Same thing over here. 12 times 8 is 96. So that means our answers were correct. Good job. Okay, go ahead and go to your next page, please. Okay, let's look at a slightly trickier example. Okay, Ramilla is painting a replica of the national flag of Trinidad and Tobago for a research project. Find the area of the black stripe. That means just simply this area. This black stripe is a parallelogram. It has a base of 6 3/4 inches. Fraction. And then it has a height of 12 inches. The height is the same as it would be over here on the rectangle. Okay? We will use the formula area equals base times height. We will plug in our height, and our height is 12, and our base is 6 3/4. We solve it. I'm going to show you 2 ways to solve if you have a fraction. If you are taking this in the Power Up class, especially in the first semester, this may be very challenging for you because you have not learned how to multiply fractions yet, or possibly you may not have it. You hopefully learned it in 5th grade. If not, you will be learning it in Unit 3. So I'm going to show you how to change this into an improper fraction so that you can multiply. But then also you have options in your assignments to also use decimals. So in this case, we would change 6 3/4. Let me show you. Okay, so our area equals 6 3/4 times 12. Okay, in order to multiply fractions and mixed numbers, we always must change our mixed numbers into improper fractions. This you should have learned last year. If not, I will give you a little reminder. In order to change that into an improper fraction, we do the MAD approach. And I'll show you what that looks like. Okay. We take the denominator, multiply it by the whole number, and add the numerator. And so 4 times 6 is 24, plus 3 is 27. So that equals 27 over 4. The denominator always stays the same. Times 12. Whole numbers we put over 1. Okay? In order to multiply two fractions, the easiest thing to do is to cross simplify. That simply means ask yourself, how many times does 4 go into 12, or whatever you have for your numbers? And if they can divide by a common factor, you should go ahead and do that. 4 goes into 4 one time. 4 goes into 12 3 times. 3 times 27 is 81. 81 over 1, which is simply 81 square inches. Okay? If you're uncomfortable with the cross simplifying that I did right here, you will learn this in Unit 3 in math. You could also do that without cross simplifying, and it would simply look like this. You multiply straight across. 4 times 1 is 4. 27 times 12. Let me get my calculator out to do that. 27 times 12 equals 324. 324 over 4. If we were to divide that, we would get 81. 4 goes into 32 8 times. 8 times 4 is 32. 4 goes into 4 one time. So you see we got the same answer. This was just a little bit fat. Whoops. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I meant, let me just kind of fix that for you. I meant to point and say this way was just a little bit faster. We didn't have to simplify at the end. But either way will work. The other thing you can do is if you are getting fractions and you haven't learned Unit 3 yet, you can ask your teacher about using decimals instead. Okay, and the decimal version of 6 3/4 would be 6.75 times 12, and you could use your calculator, and you would also get 81 inches squared. Hopefully that helps. Go ahead and go to your last page, please. On this page, I would like you to find the area of the following rectangles, or not rectangles, parallelograms, and then check your answers when you've finished. Please make sure to rate yourself at the end. I will help by helping you to set up the problems. For number 1, you should use your area equals base times height. You will need to count your units. Okay, this one is pretty easy. Number 2 is pretty easy. I don't think you're going to have any problem with that. Number 3 is also very easy, so I don't think you're going to have a problem with this one either. And let's see, number 4. Find the height of a parallelogram if its base is 35 and its area is 700. This is going to be like one of those algebra ones, so you will set it up like this. 700, which is the area, equals 35, which is the base, times height. Remember, here you want to divide both sides by 35. Use your calculator, and that should give you the right answer. For number 5, the size of the parallelogram piece in a set of tangrams is shown at the right. Find the area of the piece. This one has decimals, so you will use your calculator to calculate this. And so it's area equals base times height again, and use your calculator. The last question asks you, how are parallelograms related to triangles and rectangles? Okay, you can try to answer that question as well. Okay, when you finish, please rate yourself. How confident are you about the area of a parallelogram? Shade the ring on the target to show how confident you are. This means I really need help. This means I'm doing okay, but could use a little bit of help. And in here, bullseye means I get it. I am ready to do this. Okay? Please show that to your teacher after you finish your notes. Bye for now. Oh, sorry. I almost forgot. I need to give you the answers to these problems so that you can check it. Let me call Porgy back in so he can give you the answers to the 6 questions on this page.
Hey, you better be quiet. There's another bear. The answer to number 1 is 12 units squared. The answer to number 2 is 50 feet squared. For number 3, it's 77 meters squared. Number 4 is 20 centimeters. Number 5 is 13.26 centimeters squared. And for number 6, you could have said something like parallelograms can be decomposed into triangles or composed into rectangles. You can find the area of parallelograms.
A little scared and run off and didn't finish that last sentence. Okay, don't forget to rate yourself. And if you have any questions, please make sure you ask before heading on to practice and checkpoint. Bye for now.